Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the H.B.D.C meeting of April 6th. Sarah Clark, our Central Permitting Coordinator, will read the directive from the governor, and then we'll move on with the meeting.
Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, please notify the chair. This meeting of the Historic Business District Commission is being conducted remotely in accordance with Section 20 of Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021 and shall afford adequate alternative means of public access via Microsoft Teams by calling the phone number 1-508-945-4410, conference ID 160-152-131#, or join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. Despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access, and we will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. In accordance with town policy, the public can speak to any issue, hearing, or business item on the agenda during the meeting when recognized by the chair.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, we'll take a roll call. Sam Stryber.
Sam Stryber is here.
Doug Grattan.
Doug Grattan is here.
Bob Burns.
Bob Burns is here.
Steve DeBoer.
Steve DeBoer is here.
Janet, are you with us?
Yes, I'm with you. I just can't
Okay.
get a picture.
Very
Just
good.
well, the hair's
Okay.
not curled.
First item on the agenda are the minutes. Does anybody have anything?
First item on the agenda is you skipped the minutes.
We need the minutes.
Sam, if you could just hold for 1 second. Doug, you appear to be sharing your screen.
I wondered what that was. Okay.
Okay, so I am trying to figure this out. Give me a second. I'm logging off and I should be good to go on my laptop. It'll be quiet. Am I still sharing my screen?
Yes. So where you see the little arrow pointing up, you want to hit the box with the X and it'll stop sharing your screen.
Where would that be, Sarah? I'm sorry. This one? Stop sharing.
Yes.
Hey,
good?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Here we go. Now we're cooking.
Okay.
Okay. Does anybody have anything about the minutes?
yes, I do. On page 7 of 9 is a couple of typos. I think in the middle, the bullet point at the top of the page, Ms. Ledoux reviewed the Form B details, which stated the architect style. That would be architectural style, and the architect is being unknown. The last bullet point should end with Ms. Kempton reviewed some of the areas that need attention and proposed new features in the new Greek revival style would be what I would do. And then those would be the two things that I noticed when I read the minutes.
Okay. A motion?
Doug Grattan will make a motion to accept the minutes with those changes.
Do I have a second?
Steve
Anybody?
DeBoer.
Did you second the motion, Sam?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's start with Sam. Are you in favor?
Sam Stryber is in favor. Do we have a motion?
Yes, we have a motion. You seconded
Okay.
it.
Okay.
Doug?
Doug, in favor?
Steve DeBoer?
Steve DeBoer is in favor.
Bob Burns?
I wasn't in
Oh, you
attendance.
weren't here. Okay. Well, Darcy Sequence in favor, I guess, because Janet,
I'm here. Yeah.
I know.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Yes, I'm in favor. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Sam, what's first on the agenda?
So we're starting with the continued hearing demolition, 22-12, Tara Owen, care of Eastwood Companies. Application to demolish the structure located at 410 Main Street.
Okay, before you start, I have some correspondence from Donald Aikman, Chatham Historical Commission. On Tuesday, March 22nd, 2022, as representative of the Chatham Historical Commission, I joined the H.B.D.C on a site visit at the subject property. I have fond memories of visiting this building in the mid-1940s when it was a market and enjoying buying fresh fruit and vegetables. The building that remains is unfortunately not as I remember it. The site shows years of neglect and is, in my opinion, in a state of demolition by neglect. The walls show signs of buckling and structural weakness. These are areas of neglected rot, and it is, in my opinion, that 410 Main Street is beyond a point of possible repair or restoration. I would hope that the H.B.D.C would limit this humble building's replacement with a modest small one. Donald Aikman. Okay, Susan, would you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, hello, Susan Ledoux from Eastward Companies, and actually on the line with me, I believe, we've got a bunch of people today. We've got Karen Kempton, we've got Mr. Riley, Andrew Garley, and in the Eastward office, I believe Bill Marsh is on the line, and Tara Owen, the owner of the property, is on with Mary Beth Cuddy. Did I forget anyone, team?
Nope.
Hearing none.
Okay. So this, I believe you continued this, you did the site meeting. Don Aikman, representing the CHC, was at the meeting. I did not attend, so I don't know if Mr. Riley would like to step in and take over at this point with that, how that went with you.
I'm sorry, on the site visit with the CHC or the
HBDC.
HBDC, well, we were there, and the thing that was most obvious to me that I hadn't noticed before was the fact that the concrete, the cellar wall in the rear is bowed out 5 or 6 inches, and so there it is. Maybe more than 5 or 6 inches. It's unbelievable. And then if you look at the front wall from the same side, you can see that that's not particularly straight either. You can see the white support post, which concrete blocks, is also tilted. And as you know, if you go into the basement, you can see the rear wall is of bricks is not in good shape either. So I'm sure it was painful for Don Aikman to accept the fact that the building is simply not capable of being saved. And so I would like to have the H.B.D.C approve the demolition of the structure.
Okay. Any more of the presentation, Susan, or should we go ahead with the discussion?
I don't have any more unless someone else from the team has something to say.
No, I think we're good. Thank you.
Sam, you want to start?
Yes, it was painfully obvious touring the building that it's difficult to see how badly it's been maintained with all the contents littered around. I think we might have a little less difficulty coming to a preservation point of view had the contents been absent. However, still the flaws in plums and squares and other building amenities are just too obvious to not overlook.
Okay, thank you. Doug?
Yeah, I agree with what Sam says. Looking at the property and the structure, you can see it. To my opinion, it's beyond repair. And, the issues that are going on, I don't see any value in saving the structure.
Steve?
Well, I might be the odd person out on this whole thing, but when we went for the site visit, there were several points that were brought to our attention throughout the building, and I just want to kind of address them sort of one by one, and just kind of offer my opinion. The first thing that was brought to our attention, or at least mine, was the use of lolly columns in the basement. And, center supports like that have been around for probably hundreds of years. It probably started with tree trunks and went on to, 6x6 or 8x8 posts. And I'm going to guess that, 90% of the houses in Chatham have some kind of center support in the basement. And it wasn't until the advent of LVLs and engineered lumber that they were able to span larger spans without the use of some kind of center support. So, just the mere presence of them, to me, is not really a contributing factor to be considered for demolition. Like I said, probably most of the buildings in Chatham have them that were of the same vintage of this building, unless they've had new foundations put in and new support systems put in. So to me, that's not a game stopper. The floors were mentioned, that they were tilted and you could roll the ball from one side of the room to the other. Well, that's probably true with every structure in town that's of the same vintage. So, the floors are made of different species of wood sometimes, different widths of wood, different sizes of wood, and, things settle. And it's, I'm hearing stories that this building goes back somewhere. It was a pretty wide range of dates, but somewhere between 1880 and 1930. I don't know how it can't be narrowed down closer than that. But the fact that the floors might be a little even, again, is not a contributing factor in and of itself to demolish this building. Another thing was the proximity of the front door to the stairway. If you look at the stairway, the bottom tread was actually cut at an angle, and it looks like it was done many, many, many years ago, because it's actually got wear marks in the wood where people were walking. So that stair has been that way for quite a long time. And the fact that the door opens up close to the stairs, again, is not a contributing factor to me. The door can be moved, or it could be made a left-hand swing door so it swings into the room and not up against the stairs. So again, that's not important to me, that the door is close to the stairs. And probably the biggest thing that was mentioned was the bulge in the wall in the back. If you look at the pictures, somebody took the time to actually side the building up to the corner board. So, and that siding doesn't look like it's been that it's that old. So if somebody that's been that way for a while, or at least it's been that way since the last time that building was sided. And if it was actively bulging, either the corner boards would be popping off, or there'd be a big gap in the siding shingles where it met the corner boards, or where they met each other. The deck would be pulling away from the rear of the building. The 4x4 post that's holding up the deck would be askewed. So, and none of that is true. So I think that bulge has been there for quite some time. And I think you know, you see houses all around town that are being lifted off their foundations and straightened it out. You know, this is certainly a candidate for something like that, as far as I'm concerned. I don't think any of those 4 things that I mentioned in and of themselves is a big enough reason to demolish this building.
Okay, thank you, Steve.
That's it.
Bob, were you able to go down there?
No, I didn't. I looked at the
Okay,
pictures. I wasn't able to make the site visit.
Okay. Janet?
Of course, you know that I'm very fond of Chatham's history, and you know, this is a 3/4 cape, and the building is recognized, has been recognized by the Cape Cod Commission, and the town itself has won an award based on the fact that we've kept our downtown area intact. This building used to be a butcher shop early on. It's also always been a retail shop. So I think in keeping with, you know, I agree with Sam's evaluation. You know, the building is in poor repair, which is a real sadness, because they had actually in the 1980s won an award for the fine condition that the building had been kept in. Anyway, when you look back at the history and read about it. Anyway, so I think that's, I think if we go with anything, that we should have a rider with it, and conditions, not just to allow it to be torn down and a residential home. You know, has been a business for this total time of its life, and it still has a presence in its streetscape. We've lost so many of our old Cape houses, and this is it's a 3/4 Cape architect. I know that we don't know the architect, that because individual peoples and families used to build the houses. A lot of my family members had built a number of houses here in Chatham, and they weren't architects. Anyway, that's long story short, but I think if the board recommends a tear down, I think you have to take into consideration the historical background and the street presence. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. I'm going to have to agree with Sam and Doug on this. I did not feel very safe in that building, and all of us couldn't go upstairs at one time, and you know, the back bulge is bad. I just think it's very unsafe. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to chime in? Saw Frank. I don't know if you wanted to say anything or not. No?
Yeah, Frank Messina.
Okay. Yep.
Frank does have his hand raised.
Go ahead, Frank.
Hi, I'm Frank Messina. I'm currently chairman of the Historical Commission, and didn't know when it was appropriate, but being you asked for public comment and you are addressing the issue of the condition of the building. And by the way, I appreciate the H.B.D.C, you know, requesting a member of the Historical Commission to join your site visit. We've done that a lot in the past, and I appreciate, you know, the continue that process. Don was available that day. I don't know where I was, but I wasn't available, and he did take a site visit, and you got his notes, and I, you know, the Historical Commission on yesterday, unfortunately, this is a short time frame for us. We didn't have a chance really to have a full hearing or anything. Not that we would have had a hearing. You know, we have no jurisdiction, just advisory to you folks. And I don't envy being in the position you're in. But I would like to address a couple of things, you know, just personally. When people say a building's not safe, has the building commission condemned the building? I doubt it. And, you know, the Historical Commission kind of uses that criteria. We get engineers and and consultants come in, with all due respect to Sam and architects, yeah, the building is in terrible repair. In fact, what we like to call it, as Don does in his memo, demolition by neglect. And we call it demolition by benign neglect. And just a quick aside, the Historical Commission is actually addressing that issue with other towns on the Cape through the Cape Cod Commission on what we could do from a bylaw perspective to help we can somehow ensure that buildings that are in historic districts like the H.B.D.C. and National Register districts and historic buildings do not suffer from demolition by benign neglect. And it happens. So it happens. So, Don also, I guess, agreed with Sam and that the building may not be able to be saved. And, not having physically taken it, nor the building commissioner said the building is unsafe and got to be torn down. Our opinion on the Historical Commission, with time and money, you can do anything. And if there's a will, there's a way. And there doesn't seem to be a will with the applicant, to save the building and wants to go put a single family home there. Not sure that that's what the appropriate streetscape situation needs to be on that part of town. I mean, this is a business district. It's a small business. It's been there since the late 1800s, early 1900s. So we have concerns. And again, we're only just giving opinions. They're probably not worth much, but they're opinions. In that we hope that if you have to allow this building to be demolished for whatever reason, you certainly consider, in using Don's point of view, that it be replaced with a modest small building, to keep the streetscape of that part of town intact with the business that goes on around there. I was interesting when Janet Whitmore pointed out, the fact that this building, and it was pointed out to me, I think it was Bill Litchfield mentioned to me, that as she said, in 1982, it was given an award by the Historical Commission for its excellent maintenance. And in fact, we even have a copy of the town meeting report of the Historical Commission when it talks about, the many residential and commercial buildings in such good conditions. And there are about 8 or 9 buildings which received an award from the Historical Commission for its historic maintenance. And this building did receive an award. So a little bit of poetic justice there. All right, sorry to go on. But again, we hope that you can find a way either to save the building, reuse the building, or find some kind of, as we like to use, adaptive reuse of the building and still allow the applicant who was apparently purchased the property to have some kind of residential mixed use of the property and still maintain that small building on the street and not a lawn going back to a property. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Frank. Susan,
Madam Chair,
yes, please, go ahead.
Bill Riley. If I could address some of the comments that have been made with regard to Mr. DeBoer's comments. He mentioned 4 things, 3 of which I think are worth putting together. He mentioned the alley columns by themselves didn't concern him. The uneven floors didn't concern him by themselves. And the bulge in the back wall didn't concern him by itself. So, and the uneven floors didn't concern him. So I guess what we see is those things taken together highlight the poor condition of the building. The reason the floors are uneven is because the back of the building is settling, and you can see that in the bulge. And the bulge extends above the first floor level. And I get a kick out of Frank saying, well, the building inspector didn't condemn it. Well, the applicant here is not the owner of the building. That's Tara Martin, who is present. But if she called the building inspector, he might well condemn it. But of course, she's got a business there that she wants to. If Eastwood's not going to buy it, she wants to keep running it, presumably. So I think that rather than taking those things individually and saying individually each one is not enough, I really think you have to take them together and consider, the overall impact that all three of those things have on the building. With regard to Ms. Whittemore's comment that it's the 3/4 cape, the Form B specifically says that there's not a type. I think principally because the plate line, that is to say the eave line of the roof, is higher than a traditional cape. So if you look at a picture of the building from the front, you can see that the eave line is considerably higher than a traditional 3/4 cape. So, lots of times the Historic Commission and your commission say, well, if we have a style of building we want to preserve, we want to keep that form identified. But if you read the Form B, they say this is not a form that is conventional or historic in any way. So we believe that Sam, as an architect, has identified the reason why the building should be removed. And Don Aikman, if ever there was a preservationist in our society, it's Don Aikman. And Don believes the building is not worth saving. And of Frank's comment, where there's a will, there's a way. What he means is, if you have enough money, you can fix anything. And the current owner of the building doesn't have the kind of money to fix it. And so her goal is to sell the building so it can be turned into a useful structure. And while it's true that the building's located in a business zone, and the building to the east, is a commercial structure. The building to the west, the old Perry building, is a private residence, and there are private residences across the street on Main Street. So we think that the tasteful design, traditional design of a residence is certainly appropriate there as well. But be that as it may, we believe that the building's not capable of being saved in a reasonable way, and we'd like to get permission to remove the building. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Any of the other commissioners have anything to say? Any comments? Okay. Anybody from the team?
I'd like to make a statement that the 3/4 cape was written in the historical information given about the house. I didn't make that up, Mr. Marsh. Thank you.
Okay, are we ready to move on and vote? We need a motion.
I think there's still two more hands up. Frank Messina and someone from East.
Sorry, I didn't see it. Bill Marsh.
Actually,
ahead, Bill.
Tara Owen is with us here at Eastwood Companies, and she'd like to make some comments.
Hi, Tara.
Hi. I just thought I'd give you a little information that maybe you all don't know.
Get closer to the microphone, Tara.
Okay. So I thought I would share a little information that I have that you all might know just because I've been with the building so long. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, fine. You're great.
Okay. I've actually owned the building for 23 years, and I also wanted to let you know that I started the business actually like 3 years prior to that, before I was able to buy it. So I've actually had a relationship with it for 26 years now. And I also thought you might like to know that I've actually had the building on the market for 5 years now, which I think is exceptional, especially in these times. And I've had oodles and oodles and oodles of potential buyers look at it. And I think it's really important to know that so many people have really, really, really want to acquire it or run a business there, or maybe do a mixed use or something like that. But they, time over time, would bring contractors in and developers, and it just wasn't something feasible that they could do. I think once they bought the building, then it would take so much more to renovate it, and it just, the numbers didn't work for them. So it's really been, the age and the condition have really been an issue with even just trying to find a new home for it before it falls down backwards. It literally, we don't even go out on the deck anymore. It's, and actually we kind of hate to go into the basement, to be honest, just because every year it seems to sag a little bit more. But anyway, I just thought it's important to know that I really am thrilled that Bill is willing to step up to the plate and create a new jewel on Main Street so that that end of town doesn't look bad when it falls over. But anyway, I just thought I would share my thoughts.
Thank you, Tara. Sorry, someone else.
Hi, this is Mary Beth Cuddy. I'm Tara Owens' attorney. And I just wanted to also point out that I was reading through the general guidelines for the H.B.D.C. And one of the guidelines states that it's the duty of the board to promote the cultural, economic, and general welfare of the inhabitants of the town of Chatham. And Ms. Owen has been a Chatham resident for 39 years and a business owner for 26 years. So I think that when you consider this application, it's important to keep in mind that Tara is a town resident, and your board has the duty to promote economic and general welfare of Ms. Owen in addition to the other inhabitants of the town. So I think we need you to consider Tara's position and the fact that she has been diligently trying to sell this property to someone that could renovate it, give it the love and the care and the money that it needs. But no one has stepped up to the plate until now. And it's something that is very important to her financially and for her to move on in her life. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Beth. Frank, I see your hand up.
Hi, yeah. I just want to speak relative to the issue, a couple of quick things. The issue of the design of the building, whether it's a three-quarter cape or not, the vernacular building, the building has been there for a long time. And, and we don't consider something historically significant just because it doesn't fit into a category of Greek revival or three-quarter cape. And I think from your perspective as the historic business district, the young woman just before made a comment about the obligations of the H.B.D.C. Well, it's the historic business district. Yes, you have to consider the commercial situation. You have to consider the applicant's financial situation. But I think you have to also consider the streetscape and what's happening to the downtown business district that you guys are supposed to be maintaining in the historic business district. And I'm not saying that the property can't be developed. I see she's pulled in Eastwood Company, an award-winning restoration and historic architect, and I'm sure Bill could come up with something. And that's only I'm speaking personally now. If we could somehow come up with some kind of a situation where there can be a single family, and you guys got a lot of power, you're in a historic district. You don't even report to the Cape Cod Commission. You're the last word on what happens on that street, okay? Unlike the Historical Commission, which has other bosses. So you have a lot of authority, and you've used it in the past, when you've decided what something should look like. And that's my only comment, and I think the Historical Commission's comment, hope that when you decide, okay, you've got to let it go demolished, but okay, now you have a lot of authority and design criteria to decide what goes there and what it looks like. And that's all we're saying. Try to maintain the streetscape to the extent possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you again, Frank.
Thank
Okay, Sarah, I have a question for you. As far as voting goes.
Yes.
Bob, were you able to watch a video or anything of the last presentation?
Yes, I watched
Okay.
the last meeting, but I
Okay, great.
didn't do a site visit.
Okay, that's okay.
I was out of town.
Okay, very good. Okay, so anybody else before we have a motion? Okay, let's have a motion.
So Doug Grattan will make a motion under continued hearing demolition, application 22-012, Tara Owen, care of Eastwood Companies, application to demolish the structure located at 410 Main Street as presented.
Second, please.
I'll second it, Sam.
Thank you,
Driver.
Sam. Okay, so Steve, you will be voting today in Dan's place, all right?
Okay, yes.
Sam Stryver, how do you vote?
I approve.
Doug Grattan,
Doug Grattan approves.
Burns,
I abstain.
Steve DeBoer,
Steve DeBoer, considering the loss of a historic structure in town, I'm going to vote no.
Darcy Sequin is going to vote in favor. Okay, that's it. Motion passes 3-2, or 3-1-1.
Okay.
All right, Sam, what's next?
What's next is a continued hearing, new construction. 22-13, Tara Owen, care of Eastwood Companies, application to construct a new structure located at 410 Main Street.
So would you introduce yourself again, please?
Yep, hello, Susan Ledoux from Eastward Companies. You have a cover letter and our package that were submitted to you. So I'm going to go through my letter first and the details of the requirements and note which items have been included in the packet. Then I'll turn it over to Karen to talk about the architecture, and I believe Andrew Garrelay is here and he'll talk about our proposed landscape plan. So we are proposing a new single-family home on the site, and it is located in two zones, R20 and GB2. The house is totally within the GB2 zone, and we are proposing a house, driveway, retaining walls, and landscaping within that zone. So as you can see, if you scroll through, I don't know if Sarah will scroll through for me, but the exterior colors, siding, material, and trim will be a clapboard front of main section of house, 4-inch to weather, painted white. The remainder of the house, the sides and rear, will be white cedar shingle with bleaching oil, heavier trim, built-out rakes, painted white. The shutters will be black vinyl louver shutters on the front elevation. Roof color material will be Certainty Landmark Premium Pewter Wood Asphalt Shingle, and there the sample was attached. That was on the previous photo of the. There it is. That's the proposed roof color material. Covered front porch and rear deck will be slate gray AZAC. Front porch columns will be white composite columns. The rear deck railing, and that would be the next photo, Sarah, decorative railing as shown, white composite. Windows and skylights, Anderson 400 series with applied exterior grills throughout the house, 2/1, Velux VSS 3434 skylight, and the cut sheets and details are attached for all of those. A front door is a Therma-Tru S90 6 light with panel below, right there, yeah, with 2 side lights to match, and that will be black door with the white side lights. Other exterior doors will be Therma-Tru 6 light with panel below, similar to the front door, and they will be black. The foundation is proposed to be a poured concrete. The garage is attached 2-car garage with carriage-style doors at the rear of the home and will not be seen from Main Street. And as shown, there'll be white clopay, and that's the cut sheet showing the proposed garage door. The driveway is proposed jumbo granite cobble apron shown alongside the inside edge of the sidewalk and granite cobble edging along the proposed circular shell drive in front of the house. The side driveway leading to the rear of the house, garage, and parking area will be asphalt. Walkways, and there's a sample of the walkway. Proposed walks in front, rear, and side yards will be granite blocks or steppers. The retaining wall on the side and rear, 3 sections are proposed, constructed modular block, not to exceed 3 feet on the outward face. Exterior light fixtures will be onion lights mounted on light blocks next to the exterior doors, and the light fixtures will be antique brass, as shown in that photo. And exterior mechanicals, we've, since this previous meeting, I think we have removed the exterior mechanicals that were previously approved. And because we noted that they did not meet zoning, so we've removed them from the site plan, and we will be proposing them in an area that will meet requirements. As we build the house, we'll come back later with the exterior mechanicals. And we have the landscaping, hardscaping plan, which I'll leave to Andrew, and then existing the site. And I'll turn it over to Karen now to talk about the architecture of the proposed house, and you have the plans there. Thank you.
Hi, this is Karen Kempton, architect for this project. Sarah, do you have access to the previous hearing photos? There are some photos of other homes on Main Street that I'd like to show. So when we were designing the new home for 410 Main Street, we took direction from the existing buildings along Main Street. We wanted to keep the new structure similar in mass and scale as the original front elevation. We also felt keeping the same distance and footprint from Main Street was important for the neighborhood aesthetic. The proposed Greek revival is prevalent along Main Street, most notably across the street, Rick Smith's office. Basically, that's what the front of the gable front of the new building will look like. It is a proposed Greek revival style, and we're proposing similar block cornices, wide corner boards, white clapboard front, built-out rake boards, and wide frieze. The second floor windows will also be high in the gable front, which helps keep the height of the structure lower than a 2-story facade. If you go back to my plans then, the front elevation, there is a front covered porch, which are also present along Main Street. So the front of the porch aligns with the existing front of the house now in the same footprint. The ridge height in elevation is the same as the original house. So the ridge is not going any higher, and the first floor elevation is the same as the existing structure. The existing continuity along Main Street, we feel that the first floor elevation and keeping the ridge helps with the existing continuity along Main Street, and the width and setback from the street also replicate, as I said, the original house. So the majority of the structure is hidden behind the front facade. The most visible side, the right side of the house, which you see in the bottom drawing, from the street, you probably will only see the first 6 feet of the porch and the 18-foot, again, Greek revival style. The rest of it is recessed back 3 feet, that wall, and then the wall above is recessed another couple of feet back, so hidden on the front, by the front. And because of the way the lot is shaped, there is not a lot of space between the right side of the house and the left side of the house and the abutters. So your view coming down the street, you really don't see the back of the house because your perception is it's very narrow when you're walking by it. You will probably only see the front Greek revival style. Additionally, the garage is a drive-under garage located at the rear of the house and not visible from Main Street. So we believe that the new construction is in harmony and scale with the neighborhood and the surrounding buildings. It is appropriate to the vernacular of Main Street and maintains this charm of this special street in Chatham. That's what I have, if there are any questions.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Hey, Janet.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Because we have obviously voted, the majority has voted for the demolition, does that mean that we go along with the property being totally changed to a big oversized house that's going to be probably vacant for the 9 months of the year and not serve, really doesn't serve us in the town?
Janet, they will be coming to the zoning board because a single-family dwelling in a business zone requires the grant of a special permit by the zoning board of appeals.
Okay, all right. So that would, before they can tear it down, that they have to go through all these other boards as well.
Before it can become a single-family dwelling, they need to get approval from the zoning board.
Okay.
Sarah, I'd also like to point out that in the historic narrative of the Form B, it does say that they are not sure if this house was built as residential or as commercial use. So there is a question as to that. In fact, it says the building represents a conundrum due to its form. It may have been converted from residential use or it may have been built for commercial use. So at one point in its history, apparently it was used as residential.
Okay, thank you, Karen.
Is there any possibility that you would consider putting a building, there that would that you could rent, that people could
Janet,
living space?
I don't think we can get into that, Janet.
Okay,
As far as-
all right.
That's,
Thank you.
that's,
Well, okay.
yeah.
I'm
It's-
just
it's up to
asking
them.
questions. I need to understand.
Yeah, it's up to them to, if they want to rent it or whatever, or sell it as a single family. That's,
Okay.
we're here to discuss the architecture. Okay, that good?
This is Bob Burns. Karen, question. Is the garage underneath the back?
If we can pull up the first floor plan, there is a rear deck and the garage is underneath the rear deck. So it's not adding any mass to the building.
Okay.
As far as second floor, first floor space, it's drive underneath that deck.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Doug, do you have a comment or questions?
I don't currently. I like what I see, and so I'm curious to see what Andrew's presentation looks like. But I certainly like the home design.
Sam?
Could you pull up the front elevation? And yeah, there it is, there. Now, what looks like, if you take the porches off and you take the front gable off and you let the wall go all the way down to the ground, you have a simple cape that resembles the existing building. Is that not true?
That is correct. It is the same width as the existing building and would have that front tall wall like the existing building has.
And you have a you have a gable and a rake and a support or pigeon roost for that resembles the house. Could we? Is it possible to make it identical?
Well, we're trying to get some second floor headroom. So you can see that those two windows are in the peak of that gable.
Yes, I see.
And the window to the right is sort of broken through the cornice line. And that's all to get second floor headroom. So if we're a two-story or a cape, the windows would be not in the tall wall. They would have to be higher than the tall wall for the second floor.
No, but I mean, just, I'm not saying remove the gable. I'm just saying, can we make the trim details similar to the trim details that are on the existing house? And let that gable end that shows up on the side, on the east side of the house, resemble the gable end of the existing house. And you have 3 windows in there. Did you raise is the plate higher in this building for that portion of the structure than in the existing? In other words,
Yes,
is the pitch, oh, okay, it is higher. So the pitch
it is higher.
not, the pitch is shallower.
The pitch is shallower. The second floor wall height is higher. I believe it's a 5-foot knee wall. The existing wall that's there is a 3-foot knee wall.
Okay. Okay. So it was a nice try. One other thing is the porch. The porch detail lacks a beam, soffit, fascia, and cornice detail. Unless you really intend to do that, I know that you're pinched on height because I can see that the bottom of the roof is just skimming the top of the window. So, but I wonder within that, we could have a more traditional porch eave detail and porch rake detail that matches the rest.
We can look at that. I was trying to put a gutter on it instead
Okay,
of
then
just
put a gutter
trim.
instead of a cornice. The gutter is fine instead of a cornice.
Yeah, we can certainly detail that so it's similar to what's there. I was really, as far as a Greek revival style, going across by the building across the street as far as that built-out trim. We will be having the rectangular cornices that are there now. I just thought, as far as the Greek revival, having the built-out trim like the building, which was probably a similar age across the street, it would be charming to match that. But sure, we can certainly look at the existing trim and see if that makes sense to match that.
So, what I'm concerned about is that there's no overhang. There's no projected eave in the detail as it's drawn, and one of the columns is projecting farther than the roof edge, whatever. It's just that the beam, soffit, fascia.
Yeah, there will be better detail there on the actual CAD plans, but it will have a fascia and then built out fascia and then the gutter, and then underneath the soffit will be recessed back, and the column will be centered then on the center of the soffit.
What I'm not concerned about is the dimension from the bottom of the beam to the start of the roof being too heavy. If it could, by breaking it up with a beam and a fascia, helps to make the roof not be so heavy.
Right, there will be additional line there it's not shown, but it will have probably a 10-inch fascia and then a 6 or 8-inch soffit instead of that one wide band that you're seeing now.
Well, I'm saying that maybe you could shave those down so that the roof does not seem so heavy.
Okay, so it's higher, held up higher.
Well, I don't think so. I think the bottom of the beam would just skim the windows like you've shown it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a shallowish beam and a shallow fascia. Could be quite elegant.
Okay.
That's it, Sam? done?
That's all.
Okay, Steve?
Oh, I could also
Oh.
mention that
Sorry.
the height of the roof is just under 30. It's about 29 and a half feet from the of its grade plane. Of course, this house has a difficulty in that this three-story house, the back grade is a whole story below the front story, and so it's very, very tight to get under 30 feet. But they seem to have a 9'1" first floor. That's something that I think is based on the existing house. So that's a very elegant height. It could be that could be adjusted a little bit to get the first floor down a little. Anyway, I'm glad that they're holding the original eave height so that it doesn't loom over Main Street.
Thanks, Sam. Steve?
Yeah, hi. No, I think it's a fine looking building. It's a very nice, nice design. And, I think if it was someplace else other than Main Street, it would be better in my eyes. I wish that we weren't losing part of the business district. I know that a couple of years ago in the house just next door at 416 went through a change of use. There was some concern that the businesses at 400 Main Street were being sort of isolated or segregated from the rest of the town, and the fact that residential buildings were being injected into Main Street. People might not know those businesses are even there, and now we're adding another residential structure that's further segregating those businesses at 400. So, although I think it's a great looking house, it's well designed and it's got great features. I just wish it was someplace else, and I wish that property could be redeveloped differently, commercially instead of residentially.
Thanks, Steve. Janet? You there, Janet?
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry. I agree with Steve in his comments. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else, Karen, from your team, have anything to say? Otherwise, we'll move on to a motion. I'm sorry, we won't move on to a motion. We got to cover. Forget it.
Yeah.
Bill.
Excuse me, Darcy, Bill Riley.
Okay.
The coughing Bill Riley.
Oh, boy.
I know. I think I can certainly sympathize with Steve's comments about the fact that we're converting a business property into a residential property, but Chatham has always had an intermix of residential and commercial. I mean, the building to the west, the old Perry building, which was moved from a point behind the town hall, is a residential building. The building that raised such a ruckus when Helene's children wanted to sell it had been a residence before Helene bought it and put in her little store. So, the building to the east, which I still think of as Foster's Furniture. Yeah, you remember too, Sam, right?
I do.
There's always been there, and has always had a great history, and so across the street you've got residences, a real estate office, the jewelry store, which is really a house as well. I mean, it's just another residence and a mix of businesses and residents, and there's nothing to prohibit the future owner of this building from operating a residence there, a business there, like the Odells do in their business up the street in their Greek revival. So I say I appreciate Steve's concern on this. I just think that given the economy today and the businesses that would go into was really quite a small building with no parking to speak of, makes it very difficult for a small business person to go in there. And so from an economic point of view, at least as with regard to Tara, it makes more economic sense for it to be a residence than a business. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Darcy, can I just jump in, Darcy, real quick?
Yes.
You know, as you know, my office was down there, and prior to Happy Van Sickle's Chatham Village Realty was a business near them. That's also now a single family home. So that is common in that area, which I took into consideration.
Thank you, Doug. Somebody from East.
Darcy, Bill Marsh would like to speak.
Go ahead, Bill.
Hello, everybody, this afternoon, and thanks for going forward with this meeting. I want to mention that Karen Kempton and I have worked very closely together for over 30 years, and our efforts have resulted in Chatham alone in numerous presentation awards for the properties that we've done in town. I'm not sure that I heard Sam correctly about the Porch, but I want to make a comment about the Porch and the Greek Revival. Karen and I drove the fabric of this particular part of the neighborhood of our town, along with many other parts of town, most specifically the Old Village. And we both love Greek Revival, so we wanted to work very hard in reproduction Greek Revival. And one of the things that was very important to Karen and I, which are fast disappearing from the architecture what you see today, for all kinds of reasons, we really wanted to have a front porch. And for any of you that have driven by the Royals house, which is the old Perry building that is directly to the west of this building, you very often see the Royals and their friends sitting out on their porch enjoying an afternoon in sunny Cape Cod in the summer. And this is a part of the fabric that we wanted to recreate and bring to town. And we think that it enhances the streetscape dramatically. Then kind of the last comment is I understand some of the objections and concerns about commercial, but this is really kind of a transition from the commercial fabric of our town toward the residential fabric. And pretty much other than Old Joe Mama's and Chatham Village Cafe, pretty much other than that, the entire rest of the town as you go east towards Shore Road is all residential. So we think that it's in the very best of compliance with the fabric that exists along the streetscape in this part of town. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Is there anybody else who would like to speak on the architecture of the building? Okay, should we go into the landscaping? Karen, would you want to do that, or Susan? Andrew
is here. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello.
Just introduce yourself, Andrew,
Okay.
please.
Andrew Garrelli, registered landscape architect, Yarmouth Port Design Group. If we can zoom that in a little bit and slide it up a little so we're closer to the street. I'll start in the front. As you undoubtedly know, in front of the building now, this is one patch where there is no sidewalk. It's a shell driveway with a parking space similar to where that car is parked in the landscape plan. So we decided we'd clean this up a little bit by proposing a new asphalt sidewalk, which would match either side of this property so that the people walking along Main Street will be able to pass by and easily access those buildings that are businesses that are to the east of the property. We continue to have a parking space in front. We've neatened it up and cleaned it up with cobble edging and a little bit of a cobble apron along the front side. The porch is, as you can tell by the scale of the car, is still close to the road. As Bill Marsh was mentioning, a great place to sit and interact with people passing by for a resident of the house. We've got some endless summer hydrangeas consistent with the plantings you see on Main Street on some of the businesses that have some plantings, and also some evergreen hollies on either corner of the house for some symmetry. The porch is very close to even with the driveway, so there's no big step going up to the house. It's going to sit nice and flat. Off to the left side, I have a retaining wall that currently exists on the existing house, a retaining wall in roughly the same location. This one turns and returns back toward the street. It just cleans up the transition with the abutting property so we don't have an odd end of a wall as exists now. And at that point, it drops down to the flat area on the left side of the house, which I'll get to later on. There's no lawn here. Somebody mentioned earlier about having they would object to having a residence with a lawn in front of it. This is still right in the same location of the existing building, and it's all planted up, and it's small, so a lot of the plantings are small. Got a little bit of screening to the left with some cherry laurel. And then the driveway, of course, on the right side to access the back of the house and the garage. This slope is going to be a lot less steep than what's currently what the current driveway has. So right now, if you've driven in the back and you've come out, it's like you're coming up a ramp. When you get to the street, it's a little bit awkward. So this is a much tamer slope. It's about a 6 to 7% slope. And on the right side, we're filling in to tame that slope. So on the right side of the driveway, there's going to be a modular block retaining wall that faces outward. And so it's facing the building to the right. And as you go down further down, if we can inch down a little bit or inch, yeah, right there's good. So down the right side of the property, you can see the retaining wall. On the abutting property, there's also there's a boulder wall that's holding up their parking lot. So this wall is actually facing another wall that's facing it. So nobody's really going to see this. And as you can see, there's a fence line that separates the parking lot that's up above on the neighboring property. So this is not a visible wall. And along the side of the driveway, we have some small plants that can take a little bit of abuse if somebody happens to go off the driveway slightly, or a snowplow in the winter. So we've had some ornamental grasses and some daylilies on the right side. Planting bed on the left side is not real big, so we do have a couple of varieties of hydrangeas and some ornamental grasses and some catmint. So there's some good summer color in there, and some things for the winter as well. If we can slide back toward the rear of the property a little more. Okay, yeah, right about there is good. You can see the set of stairs that comes down from the deck that's over the garage. And that comes down to a granite paved walkway that you can go to the left to the parking spaces that would be in front of the garage. So we're able to put cars in the garage and park a couple of guest cars in front of the garage doors. You can see there's a dogwood tree and a couple of hydrangeas as understories. kind of separating the cars from the driveway that comes down. And if we can inch a little bit more toward the rear, you can see there's a place to turn around so the car could back out easily and be able to drive straight out and not have to back out onto Main Street with a little bit of maneuvering room there as well. As you can see there's a separation between two walls on the right side. It's not the rear corner of the property, but it's where we finish off. Yeah, right there. There's another wall. That wall faces inward because that's where the end of the abutters wall is. So the grade is higher there. So that wall actually is retaining to keep things from keep the land from coming onto the parking lot. So, and it's only a couple of feet high. And you can see there's drainage in the driveway in the back in two places to take care of the runoff that comes down all the way from all the way from the front yard. The water would travel down the driveway and come back here. On the westerly abutter side, we have some hydrangeas. We have a little lawn area toward the rear of the property, and also along that side in front of hydrangeas and ornamental grasses. And if we can slide back toward Main Street a little bit, the other way, yeah, a little bit more. Okay, there's a pass door on the side of the garage, so I have some stepping stones that would connect to the driveway if somebody were to go out of that door. To give some privacy and take away from looking at the side of the house to the westerly abutters, we have an interesting planting of columnar hornbeams, and we will have a technique called pleaching, where the tree is pruned to actually make a hedge, but it's a high hedge. So you still have the tree trunks going up, and the back side or the west side and the east side would be kept pruned so that the tree does not get wide in that direction, but it would be trained to meet each other and actually form like an elevated hedge. And that will give the abutters next door privacy from the windows from this house, and just make two very separate properties. If we could scooch up a little bit more toward Main Street. This is going to be a very shady area. As you know, it's lower back there on that side, so we need shade tolerant plants. Rather than a lawn that I don't think would grow very well, I have Pachysandra, which is a ground cover that can handle shade very well. And we also have some either Olgamezet or PJM rhododendrons along the back side of the house, which will take shade and just soften up a little bit. And the abutter has a fence along that side already, so there's privacy between the properties. And there's no activity that's going to be taking place back there, because obviously it's not a lawn, it's not a patio. So the neighbor's patio that's on the other side of the fence will enjoy its privacy and not be hearing the people of this house trying to enjoy themselves. They'll be on the deck instead. I think that pretty well covers it, unless there's any questions, of course.
Thank you, Andrew. Excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Right. Bob, do you have any questions on the landscaping?
No, I think the landscaping plan looks excellent. So no further questions.
Steve?
No, I have no questions. Thank you.
Doug?
No, I think it looks very nice. Great, wonderful landscaping.
Sam?
I was just looking at that Pachysandra. There's really no access to that Pachysandra down there, and even though it's a dark pit, I'm not concerned with it. It's much better than if it were grass, so the Pachysandra should do well.
Thank you. Janet?
I think the plans of the house overall are very attractive, and the landscape ideas are very good. But I still stand by the fact of my former statements. Other than that, I have nothing to say.
Okay, everybody okay with the lighting that was presented?
Yeah.
I think that about covers it. Do we have any other discussion? I think to go back to the architecture, Ellen Briggs is in the audience and she asked about a central chimney. It's not going to be any chimney at all. Karen?
Right,
Karen?
there's no center chimney now,
Right.
posed.
Yeah. She just asked the question, so I wanted to present it to you. Okay, thank you. All right, are we ready to vote? Do we need to cover anything else? Everybody good? All right, let's have a motion.
Doug Grattan will make a motion under continued hearing, new construction, application 22-013, Tara Owen, care of Eastwood Companies, application to construct a new structure located at 410 Main Street as presented.
Bob Burns, second.
Thank you. All right, ready to vote. Bob Burns,
Bob Burns in favor.
Steve DeBoer,
Steve DeBoer is in favor.
Doug Grattan,
Doug Grattan's in favor.
Sam Stryber,
Sam Stryber is in favor.
and Darcy Sequin is in favor. Thank you very much. Excellent
Thank you.
Madam
presentation.
Chair. Thank you, members.
As always. Thank
Have
you.
a good night.
You too. Thanks a lot. Okay, Sam, what's up next?
Administrative approval exemption 22-20 Cape Equity Holdings LLC, care of Steve Cady. Ratification of certificate of exemption to remove and replace center chimney on structure located at 894 Main Street.
Okay, this one was Darcy and Doug that went out, and it was under a maintenance and repair. And this is the subject chimney that's being replaced.
Wow.
That's interior photos. They're not the best, but it had quite a bit of leaking going on.
I see.
So, and they were replacing it exactly the same, repainting white with the black top.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Doug Grattan will make a motion on administrative approval / exemption, application 22-020, Cape Equity Holdings LLC, care of Steve Cady, ratification of a certificate of exemption to remove and replace center chimney on the structure located at 894 Main Street as presented.
Do we have a second?
Bob Burns, second.
Thank you. Okay, Steve DeBoer? how would you
I
vote?
will vote to approve.
Doug?
Doug Grattan votes to approve.
Bob?
Bob Burns votes to approve.
Sam?
Sam Stryber votes to approve.
And Darcy votes to approve. Okay, what's next, Sam?
A pre-application conference, Chatham Productions LLC, pre-application conference to discuss potential modifications to the structures located at 776 Main Street.
Do we have the applicant here?
Hi, this is Victoria Clark. How are
Hi,
you?
Victoria. Good, how are you?
I'm doing well. I believe if Sarah wants to share the screen, we sent over a preliminary rendering based upon the block plan that we had shared with the H.B.D.C. I believe it was back in January of the Monomoy Theater as well as the Washington Taylor House. And to refresh your memory, the Washington Taylor House, it is redoing the addition that was originally put on the back I can't remember off the top of my head, right there, yes, exactly, on the back portion of the original Washington Taylor House. So that would be the addition on the Washington Taylor House. And then for the Monomoy Theater, it would be expanding the main lobby, creating a double door entrance. Immediately to the right-hand side would be a restroom addition. And further to the right would be a restaurant bistro that was meant to provide food for the theater. And I believe if you scroll down, Sarah, there is an aerial shot of the, yes. So, and behind the restroom addition, so the middle between the theater and the restaurant is the scene shop addition that we had originally talked about. So right there exactly so that the theater could have the sets closer and not have to build them far away and move them over. And as well, in this drawing, you can see we propose to raise the front half of the theater building to add a second story of seating for the theater. And I believe that height is matching the fly loft, or
actually we're raising the front of the existing main entry so that we can then raise the roof on the auditorium section.
Yes.
Yes. And our architect is on the call also. So he can answer any questions that anyone has.
We just wanted to present it to kind of get some preliminary feedback on the design and see. Yes.
Do I see the front elevation again on the main building? All right, comments, please. Bob?
Right, see that again, Sarah.
Yes.
Are you gonna pull it up?
There you go.
To the right of the addition, to the restrooms, is there enough room on the property for, I can't tell, but it looks like a big addition.
Without the benefit of a site plan, I can't tell you if how it would work on the site.
Okay, all right. I think it looks good. I just wonder about the size of it, but that was my question.
Hey, Sarah, can we answer that question, Sarah?
Go ahead.
Yes, please.
So Bob, yes, if you look at the, when we gave the preliminary block plan, I think it was like maybe 6 weeks ago or so, we hadn't meet the setback requirement that we need from our side boundary. We're actually further in from that than is required. It's just difficult because you're looking at a rendering. Once we get to the point that we can figure out what's going to be acceptable for the buildings to look like from the street and so on, then our architect, Charles Kraus, who's on the call with us too, he will start finalizing the floor plans so you can see better how it all flows internally and the setbacks from the property lines and so on. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
That's great. Thank you. Sam?
You called me?
Yes, I did. Do you have any comments?
Okay, yes, I do. So I think one of the things that is concerning me, I like the theater and I like the existing theater entrance, but that worked when there was nothing else to confuse it. Now there's a double door side-lighted entrance that's attempted to be downplayed by quite a long arcade of windows or structure or eave line that sort of hides a gable end. Now, I like the gable end, although its proportions are not the same as the proportions as the house. And if they somehow could be, and I don't know because I don't know anything about the plan requirements that that they brought to bear on this addition, but it seems bigger than what was originally described as men's and women's rooms, a gift shop, and a little restaurant. So maybe the restaurant here is a bit of the tail that's wagging the dog in the whole composition. I just find that the playhouse and the playhouse entrance which is so underplayed. And then these subsidiary uses have this big, long shape, single shape, that disguises a flattened gable. It just doesn't make a story yet. There's 1, 2, and then a 3, and the 4 is kind of muddled. If that means anything to anybody, I'm not sure whether people, they get out of their cars, do they go into the double doored? Is that where they head? Is that where the tickets are? Is that where? How do people know which door has the lady or the tiger? You know. I hope that's helpful.
I think it's a great design. I also agree with Sam with the, preserving the look of the original theater. It's a very nice entrance. I love the sort of, I'll call it a modern aspect to the right-hand side of the property. And I think it's a very attractive looking property.
Steve?
I think it's a good first start. I think what I sort of agree with Sam, and is that the sort of the right side of that drawing or rendering doesn't really match the left side. So it looks a little too modern to me to be next to the house. So if it could be made to look more like the house and more cohesive, I think it would be better. But I know this is the first shot, and we're going to look at this many times going forward. So, it's a starting point. But I just wish that the architecture could be a little bit better.
Thank you, Janet.
Yes, I also agree that it's a good start. I'm glad to see that the Clarks are making plans anyway. I say, to me, when I look at it, I agree with Steve DeBoer. It's too contemporary looking. It looks more like an elementary school to me. When I look at that and see the beautiful Taylor house in front, it doesn't flow properly. It doesn't look right. I'm just wondering if you can make it look a little bit more historical. And my last statement is there are a lot of people that gave a lot of money to Monomoy Theater to keep it maintained and everything. Has the main entrance of the way the theater looked, has that gone through historical? It's a question.
Do you mean the double door, like the original single door?
You're proposing a two-story building as the entrance to the theater. I'm wondering, the theater itself, the front face of the theater and the way it looks now, has that gone through historical yet?
Janet, so it doesn't go to historical.
Excuse me?
We are the historical. We're historical here. This is our district.
This is us.
Thank you, Sam.
All set? I agree with my commissioners. I think a little less modern would be very beneficial to this area. So hopefully that's a start for you. Do you have any questions for us?
What I'd like to address, so Sam, the reason why the front right looks larger is obviously without the floor plans it's difficult to see, but if you look at the roof rendering, that first section of where the double doors are, entrance to what would be the restroom lobby or the restaurant, that is actually not part of the restaurant. If you look at the roof line, you can see where that comes up. It's deceptive because it sits in front of that lobby actually, okay? So it makes that look bigger. But you know, what we looked at here is knowing we're going to try to get this property on the National Park Service register, we have to be careful what we do to the theater. We're getting pushback from the state on whether or not the theater is historic. So we're going to have to work with you and with them, with National Park Service, if we're going to try to get that onto the register. They will really push back on trims and whatnot. That's why our architect has not drawn any trim on the theater portion yet. We're looking for your feedback first. So when we come back with the next rendering, we'd like to start talking about different trim details you'd like to see on that. The Washington Taylor house is pretty much set. We have to replicate exactly what was there in order to meet the National Park Service's requirements. So our architect will start drawing the details on that building. I'd love to see some of the same details that are on that building used on the other buildings, but I'm not so sure that the Park Service would accept that. And I'm not so sure how your board would feel about it. That's what we were kind of looking for, a little feedback on that. Because like you said, this is just a real preliminary presentation. You know, what do you think about utilizing some of the same, I think Sam, you said it at the beginning that you like how the Washington Taylor house, it looks beautiful on this rendering. And I think if we could do something.
Greg, you should tell me which entrance is which is the main entrance? Where do I go? Do I go into that double door, or do I go under?
Yeah, if you're gonna go to the theater, you got to go into the double door, because that's where the main lobby will be. And in this presentation, the only reason why the windows are set up like that, there's existing windows. There's 3 existing windows and a single door on the first floor of the entrance to the theater currently. We said, you know, you really don't want windows in the lobby of a theater because you have to black them out. Otherwise, some of that light will try to get into the auditorium. So we had the architect, we talked with him.
The theater is where that little covered entrance is. That's the theater entrance.
Correct. That's the entrance to the theater lobby. And the other entrance takes you into the restaurant and the restroom lobby.
Let him finish, Sam. He was making a comment. Go ahead, Greg.
So the entrance, the double entrance on the right takes you into the restaurant and into the restroom lobby. So if you were going in just to go to the theater, you could just go in the center entrance and there'll be a walkway. Our original schematic block plan showed a walkway coming from the parking out front, coming across and going up to the entrance of the main theater. So most people would go in there and I think that the issue here is that by moving that door over a bay, it kind of confuses you. And I think that the architect can look at that and get that out of there so that people know if you go into the theater, you go in here. If you're going to get something to eat first, you go into the doors on the right.
Okay, all set.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. Hope to see you again soon. Thanks,
Okay,
Greg.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that is about it. Does anybody else have?
Can I just make a statement? Sam.
Yes.
When I spoke about historical, I meant Mr. Messina's group.
What the historical commission is, yes. It just doesn't have jurisdiction in this area of town.
It's embarrassing to say, but I couldn't even look at my toenail fungus anymore.
I don't know what that is. Always in the laugh. Okay. Do we have a motion
Darcy,
to?
Mr. Greg has his hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Greg.
No, it's down now.
I
think we're good.
Oh, sorry.
We're good.
I think what Janet might be asking is, what Frank and the Historic Commission was trying to do was get the Monomoy Theater and Washington Taylor listed on the National Register of Historic Places, which is what we were just talking about doing, because you have to be the owner of a property in order to get a business listed. I know they were trying to do it before We purchased the property with the permission of the Steiner family, but that's what we're trying to do in part. To get something listed on the register, you can do it as is or with a historic rehabilitation, which is what we will be doing in order to get the theater and the Washington Taylor House listed on the National Register of Historic Places.
And we've been talking with Frank about that. We've had conversations with him over the past few weeks, letting him know we really need some help from the town because we're getting pushback on the historic significance of these buildings from the state and the National Park Service. So we plan on doing that, and he's agreed to work with us to try to help us get that done.
Thank you for answering my question. Thank you so much.
Much appreciated, Greg and Victoria. Thank you. Okay, if there's nothing else, I will need a motion.
Doug Rat will make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Bob Burns, second.
Thank you, Bob. Sam, are you in favor?
Robert approves.
Bob Burns,
Bob Burns approves.
Steve DeBoer,
Steve DeBoer votes to adjourn.
Doug Grattan,
Doug Ratton approves.
Darcy Sequin approves. Good night, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank
Good night,
you.
everyone. See you soon.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Sarah.
Bye, Sarah.
Oh.